On.
Hello, NFL fans, and welcome back to Hurdle the Line. This is our super duper divisional round review show after the big games over the weekend. We have four games to talk about. We're really excited. It was a really fun weekend of football for most of us. Uh, uh, I'm Chapman, I'm your host, and as always, I'm joined by Tom. And unfortunately, Ollie can't make it tonight. So we have sitting in super producer Fletch, who it's been a good sport to come on and talk about these games, even though he had a disappointing loss with his Lions.
Yep.
Outside of the football games, how's everybody doing today?
Very good.
Tired.
Yeah,
Today's been a
tired
long.
today.
It's been a very
Yeah,
Monday, but other than that, can't complain.
yeah.
I
For
was
those,
almost falling asleep at work, Fletch. So there you go.
I was close, very close.
I took a little nap. I got up at 9:30. That's not too bad. But yeah, I unfortunately just didn't make it all the way to the end, so I missed the last 3 minutes of that Ravens drive last night. But I did read about it and we talked about it, which we will get to. Um, so just with a little programming note, Fletch, and if you want to pick this up, we are gonna we're gonna obviously do the review show next week after the championship
Yep.
games. We will be taking a we will have a only a one episode between the both podcasts the week of the Pro Bowl, the week that's the bye week between the Super Bowl. And then obviously we'll have a Super Bowl recap show per normal. And then
Yeah.
we'll be going into the off season with some interesting stuff. Fletch, you want to talk anything about like sort of big picture stuff we're going to be doing in the off season?
Yeah. So to be fair, there's a couple of bits that even people in this room right now don't necessarily know about. Sam and I have been working behind the scenes on a massive project that was in it. That was Sam's idea. I can't take credit for the idea. This was Sam's idea. We are going to between after the Super Bowl up until nearly the draft, we are going to hopefully release a 32 10-minute interviews, chats with one fan of every team, just about recapping their 2024 season, what they see for the 2025 season and off season, which be a massive project that Sam and I are undertaking. We've got quite a few teams already signed up. None of all of our hurdle the line gentlemen have been signed up without their consent, but you're here now, so this is your consent. We have a few others, but if you would like to join us or even be a backup, if we've already got someone, if you have to be a potential backup for a team, please do let us know. Um, yeah, we'll take one episode off next week. Hopefully, if not, we'll take a preview and a review show off. We'll have a think. Honestly, I think be transparent about it. One of the days we're all gonna get together and we're all gonna just plan out a load of off-season content. We'll be doing loads around the draft. I'm pretty sure Hurdle the Line and the College Football Pod we're gonna hook up on a few occasions and get some draft stuff done because that's gonna be a lot of fun. So yeah, lots of content to look forward to. Do not think that we're gonna slow down in the off season. I think we're only gonna pick up a lot of work from where we left off in the off season and cover loads of different topics and hopefully have a load of very fun episodes.
Awesome.
Awesome. I'm excited about it. I know the team is. Excuse me. So that's gonna be great. We're gonna have a really nice off season. I think we probably will go down to maybe just one ep a week for a
Probably,
while
yeah.
during that time, then ramp back up on the opposite side of summer. But we're gonna be here with you, holding your hand through, mock drafts, lots of speculations, trades, the first day of the new league, all that fun stuff. Me specifically waiting to see what happens to my second my QB2's $40 million is gonna be owed him. Anyway, but before we get into these awesome divisional games that we're going to go through, I just want to remind you we have our sponsor, Fantasy Game Day app. It's the first and only NFL daily fantasy app exclusively for UK fans, created by UK fans. They've been with us for a large chunk of this year. And if you are a new client or sorry, new customer to the Fantasy Game Day app, and you put in the code HRDLE, that's hurdle without the U, you will get a £7.50 credit towards your account. And it's again, it's the only daily fantasy app that's just for UK fans, and it's made by UK fans. And again, our code is hurdle, HRDLE. We love the guys over there. And as now we've got 2 games left before the Super Bowl. Get on it this week. There's lots of good props. There's the Bills, obviously, the
Yes.
Chiefs. Does Kelsey repeat himself again? Does, Jared Cook score 2 touchdowns? Who knows what? But anyway, there's a lot of good teams left. What is Jane Daniels going to do in the NFC Championship game? So anyway, Fantasy Game Day app, please go check it out for us. And gamble responsibly. All right, guys. We're gonna do the classic. We're gonna start with the AFC games first, and then we'll go
Well,
to the NFC games.
can we drop a little bit of news from the NFL this week? Something that we even
Yes.
forgot to mention on Thursday's preview show. The NFL have announced all teams now to play international games in 2025. The three
Awesome.
British teams, the Browns, the Jets, and the Jags. Obviously, the Jags play every year. The Colts will be the home team in Berlin, and the Dolphins. Who would have thought this one? This was the worst kept secret in the world. The Dolphins will be the home team in Madrid next year. Obviously, they're still working on Ireland and getting one to Ireland. Might not happen this year, but Steelers will be the home team for that one. And still don't know who the road teams are going to be. That'll be announced when the schedule's released a couple of weeks after the draft. But that we know who our international home teams are going to be this year.
Yes. Good match. Um, Ollie was very excited. Browns will be here. He'll get to go see them. Good for him. And there is a potential that because the Jets have the Falcons on their schedule, that maybe we get a rematch of the 2021 London game between the Jets and the Falcons, which was a home game for the Falcons. Now could be a home game for the Jets. That'd be exciting. And
I,
is there any chance either of one of your teams are on the docket this year?
the Lions aren't.
I would doubt it, but
Um,
don't
yeah,
know.
I when I had a look through, I didn't see the Chiefs and I didn't see the Lions as possibilities. I
I
don't
know
think
we're
the
playing you
Falcons are
next
either.
year though, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, yeah. I have a theory that the Browns are a home. I think the Browns are on the road to the Jets next year, and the Jets are on the road to the Jags. So I believe that you might only see one new team make it to London next year. My
Mm.
working theory, which I think is a smart theory, it'll be someone at the Browns, Browns at Jets, Jets at Jaguars in London next year. So we'll get a double dose of the Jets. No, a double dose of the Browns and a double dose of the Jets. Lucky, lucky us.
Sometimes.
Cool. All right. Like I said, let's get to these super duper.
Yeah.
I just love the word super, apparently. Divisional round games. So we're going to start off with the one from last night just because it's fresh on the mind. It was probably the best game of the weekend, I think. And that was the Buffalo Bills defeating the Baltimore Ravens 27 to 25 in a thriller that went down to the last minute of the game, as we expect. This game featured the 2 finalists, probably for the MVP of the league, in Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. And it's 2 teams that had to battle each other only to win and go Bills to win to go on and have to play the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, which is your reward. But anyway, let's talk about the game. Um, Super exciting game, back and forth a lot. Tell me what you thought, Tom.
Yeah, it was an awesome game to be fair. I mean, the Bills came out well, the Ravens came out early, they scored an early touchdown, but then the Bills kind of took control of the rest of the half.
Yeah.
The first half anyway. But that was kind of down to both the Bills playing well and then the Ravens turnovers. Turnovers kill your momentum, and Lamar throws a dumb pick. He said it himself. He also fumbles as well. So little there's little margin for error in a game like this between 2 really explosive teams. And the Ravens just couldn't quite overcome those yeah, the turnovers that they had in the first half. So they were down 21-10 at the half, I believe. But then the Bills were kind of anemic to start the second half. The Ravens kind of took over. I mean, the Ravens had that almost 8 minute drive or something where they just ran the ball down the Bills' throat to bring it back to within a 5 point game or something like that at that
Yeah.
point. So, and then the Bills just kind of did what they needed to do, to pull out the win. But it was really back and forth. Like it looked like the Ravens were gonna tie it up, but Mark Andrews late, just a crucial drop on a 2 point attempt. Looked like he had it in his hands, and then it just goes through his hands, and that's just the season for the Ravens, really. So, but yeah, really impressive from the Bills, especially the Bills defense to be able to get turnovers. They gave up lots of yards, but they were really able to make those crucial impact plays, making what's his name again? Mark Andrews fumble the ball as well after he picked up a big 16-yard gain in the third quarter as well. So yeah, really impressive performance from the Bills, but just a tale of too many turnovers for the Ravens to overcome.
Fletch, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this was the game. You're right. This was the game of the week. This was the one that, if you were a neutral, you had this one circled on your calendar. I think a lot of people, a lot of people will be very willing to be very tired at work today just for this game. Um, Completely agree with everything Tom said there. It's something I'll probably get onto again on another game this weekend. You can't lose the turnover battle like that in the playoffs and expect to win a game. It's unfortunate, um, but that's just the reality that you live in. It's not. This is not the regular season. You don't get away with mistakes like that. You can't. And yeah, the turnover margin, and yeah, losing the turnover battle 3-0 on the road in the divisional round is. I'd love to know what the stats are for any team that's won like that in the playoffs.
So I have a little fact. I believe the Ravens are the first team to lose a game where they oh, sorry. No, that's the Texans. I'll save that one for later. I was wrong on that one. Sorry. I thought I had a fun tugboat, but I was wrong. Anyway, let's talk about the individual performances.
Yeah.
What was interesting is it felt like the Ravens took a while really to get Derrick Henry going in this one. And and what was interesting about that to me was that it felt like, it forced sort of Lamar, I think, early on to be uncomfortable. And what was really interesting is especially in the telecast, they were kind of showing how the Bills defense were sort of shaping him, and even with him getting out and trying to make plays, it seemed like they were like, hey, we're not going to let Derrick Henry run all over us. We'll live with whatever happens with Lamar Jackson. And granted, Lamar has been amazing as a passer this year as well. But it proved to be the right formula for the Bills. What did you guys think about the Bills defense, which this year was supposed to not be a very good defense, but went in and was a big part of the reason why they won this game?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the linebacker core of was it Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano. I mean, Matt Milano his hair was on fire in this game. He was making plays all over the field, impacting plays. I think he almost had like a tipped ball as well when the Ravens could have gone in for a touchdown. So he was playing electric in this game. Obviously, Terrell Bernard he picked up the fumble, or he got the fumble even from Mark Andrews. And then Von Miller in this game for the defense, picking up the Lamar fumble and going 50 yards down the field. Fair play to Justice Hill. He looked like DK Metcalf in that game against was it the Cardinals where he ran him down
He
like
almost got it knocked down.
he almost knocked it out as well.
It
Like
was very
that was
close.
close. That was close. So that was a crazy one.
Yeah, I want to give a shout. One thing I think was done really well on both sides of the ball. I think the Ravens got a couple extra. Is just the limitation of explosive plays. I know there was the 42-yarder to Rashad Bateman. There was a 39-yarder by Isaiah Likely play. But other than that, I don't think many players that there were
Big
many
chunk
20
plays.
plus
No, not
yard
really.
plays or huge chunk plays that I think was if you would have again when we spoke about on Thursday on the previous show, one thing I was thinking was who's going to stop those big chunk plays, who's going to stop that, and I want to shout out to the I was 84 yards is nothing to be sniffed at, but for Derek Henry, similar with Saquon Barkley, and you look how we looked at Ashton Genty this season in college football, when you're 120 yards, is that it? Well, it's a great game for any running back. 84 yards is nothing to be sniffed at, but yeah, Bills put up a great effort to stop Derek Henry from having the impact that he truly has, that allows the Ravens to open up the game and see Lamar Jackson able to, stop that dual threat in Henry and Lamar. So it was impressive to see the Bills were as well coached and well drilled at doing that, because it's not easy to stop a running back like Derek Henry when you've also got a quarterback like Lamar who can also escape the pocket and run and kill you with his legs and throw. It's so hard, and you've got to be so disciplined to stop that.
Yeah, I think what Ravens fans will be thinking as well is, you know, in hindsight, they went for two twice because at that point they were 2 points down. They missed the first one. Then they go for the second one at the end. But how are you not giving the ball to Derek Henry to, run that in for a 2 point conversion, like on either of those plays? I mean, he's such an integral part of your offense. I know that obviously the Bills were stacking a box and everything, but even that one to um that one to Mark Andrews at the end, like, yeah, I mean, I feel like, well, Rashad Bateman was open the other side of the field anyway, but yeah, I don't know how you're not giving it to one of your most important players on offense to go and tie it up or win a game.
Yeah. Um, One of the couple of the key areas I think you kind of need to look at is the Bills only gave up one penalty all game.
Mm,
And again, like I said, you've got to be so well drilled on defense specifically that penalties can be very easy, especially on the line. Very, very easy to give up. So the fact that the Bills only gave up one, the Ravens only gave up five. It wasn't a very flag happy game, which is always great to see.
yeah,
Um, One thing I did want to go back and double check was the third and fourth down percentages. And there isn't actually as much between them as you'd think. And actually, I think maybe it reflects a bit in the 25-27 score. The Ravens were 7 of 10 on third down, but the Bills were 5 of 11 on third down, which did surprise me a little bit.
yeah, and I
Both of
think
them were
I
1
think
of
the
1 on third.
Ravens were like on third and like three or less. They were like 5 for 5 or 6 for 6 or something like that. Like they
But
seem to get in those short yardage situations to be able to convert.
Yeah.
But I mean, the key of the game were those three turnovers, which gave
Mm.
position,
Yeah.
and I believe I
Yeah. Yeah.
did the Bills scored off all three of them, if I'm not
To
mistaken.
two
Just
of them, I think
two
they
of the three.
did.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. I mean, because
Okay.
it wasn't like a wild day from Josh Allen, though. I mean, he did rush for two touchdowns, and they were pretty impressive. But uh, you know, the Bill, it just felt like from an eye standpoint, the Ravens offense, at least on paper, outside those turnovers, looked slightly like it was performing better, but
Yeah.
the Bills took advantage of opportunities and they played really smart, disciplined football, which I think also goes back to Sean McDermott. And I think he gets a lot of crap, obviously,
Yeah.
because he hasn't gotten over the hump on a Super Bowl, but dude's a really good coach. And I think
Mm.
this year might be his best overall body of work
I would agree.
across his career,
Yeah.
in a very good career with the Bills, obviously.
I think so, especially with the way the Bills have been playing, and Josh Allen is known to be can be reckless or whatever, but this season he's really put that turnover bug behind him, and he's just making smart decisions with the football, and that's not just down to him; it's also down to the coaching and what Sean McDermott's instilled in that offense as well. So Yeah, I agree with you, Chapman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what it, I think we all, we're going to have a lot to talk about with the Bills because they're going to be obviously playing the division round next week. We'll hit the, I mean, excuse me, in the championship game next week. Let's talk a little bit quickly about the Ravens. Last year, Lamar finally gets them to the AFC Championship game against your Chiefs, Tom, but then that team just implodes. I feel like this was a much better game. Obviously, Lamar, with two of those turnovers, it, it's tough, but he's had one of the most exceptional years as a quarterback in the NFL. Probably will still get the MVP, but falls up short. How do you guys view him overall as a quarterback, and what are your thoughts with this loss? Because it's another tough one for him.
I mean, he said it himself. Like he was frustrated after the game. I mean, the sportsmanship he had to, Josh Allen to come up to him and him to have like beaming smile on his face and give him a hug and everything. I thought just speaks volumes about Lamar really as a person. But after the game, him just saying, I'm sick of this shit. Basically, I'm sick of people dropping the ball. I'm sick of us having to overcome these turnovers and stuff in the playoffs, and we're just not able to do it. He's like. He wants to, not just him, but he wants, the rest of the players to be accountable because it's not what the Ravens are known for, It's not what, I mean, Lamar is such an incredible player. And he has this label around him now that, he can't win when it counts. And, in this game, that wasn't really I know people say to the turnovers, but the way he led the team back, I mean, the touchdown to likely at the end to even, put them within a chance of tying it up like just proves that Lamar is an elite quarterback. So, but yeah, it's really tough for the Ravens.
Yeah, I unfortunately, for rightly or wrongly, quarterbacks like Lamar will end up getting judged on their record in the postseason. And the, if you go purely off the stats and play, I think Lamar Jackson will retire a first ballot Hall of Famer. What he has done for the game and as good as he's been, I don't think that's obviously not a question. But the worrying thing is, and I don't know if it's just a social media fan thing, because these aren't my thoughts or feelings, but it's what you will hear and what you will see and the narratives that will create. Is like Thomas said, he can't win when it counts. And that my worry here is that this will end up affecting his legacy a little bit for what he's done for the game, and that's not what I want to happen here because he has been that good as a player, as an advocate for the way he has changed in some ways, or been such a at the forefront of how the quarterback position's changed. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, but that's any athlete. But also, let's just all remember we've got time. Well, Lamar is maybe at the middle and still hitting his prime. There's
yeah,
I
still
mean,
a
he's
lot of
only getting better at this point. I mean,
exactly.
it's kind of crazy to think that, when he won the
So
MVP in 2019, that he was
I,
as good as he was, and he's even better now. So,
I bring this up only because I think what's interesting now is because we know so much about Lamar. Obviously, the MVPs. There's a lot of, he's been great. And look, it was the same thing sort of in the era of Peyton and Tom and Brady, more so Brady than Peyton. But I would say like there's a lot of really good quarterbacks that didn't get Super Bowls, man. And I not as good as Lamar though. But what I would
yeah,
say is like, it's interesting. And I think what's cool though is we're, outside of some trolls on whatever social media, most people are like, this dude's still really great. And
yeah,
he didn't choke away. They had a chance to win it. And it wasn't, and just like if it had been on the other shoe, I would have said the same thing about Josh Allen. And I, when we first started the show, I told you, Tom, how much I love Josh Allen because I think he's just and Lamar honestly now is right there with him with for
mm,
me, like in
yeah,
terms of just like but there's only one Super Bowl every year, and
yeah,
that's what sucks. So, but anyway,
yeah.
I was just
Well,
interested, but we don't need to spend too much more time in this
I
game
was,
because we've got three other games to get through.
yeah,
But
okay.
go ahead, Fletch.
I would say this. Well, yeah. I was just kind of say that, like, just on to echo kind of your point that you've just made there. At the end of the day, there are 32 teams in the NFL, and only one can win a Super Bowl every year. And right now, well, like when you've got dynasties right now, like the Chiefs, and you had dynasties like the Patriots. Good luck to anyone else, and it can't be a knock on anybody else. But just as a bit of a light just kind of popped in my head. Could he end up going down as almost like the Harry Kane of the
Oh,
NFL? Just one insane player who
mm,
just never lifted a who just didn't lift a big trophy.
I hope not. I hope he gets
Well,
a.
Dan Marino holds that, I think,
Yeah,
right
true.
now,
Yeah.
until Lamar retires. But um, like I said, there's a lot of time there. I don't think we need to like. I think and again, this is probably a generational thing, without trying to say older thing. But try not to. We all want to do this, but like let them finish their careers first. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Before we put them on a shelf or before we start casting what they are.
What we
But
call him, Harry Kane. Fair enough.
he's got to get 10. Yeah, Harry's at the end of his career. You can say all sorts of things about him, but you know what I'm saying? He's on the other side of the hill at this point. So,
Yeah, yeah. True.
all right, boys. I want to move on only because I want to get through these games, and we're already half an hour in. So, next game was Tom's Chiefs at home in Arrowhead, which now is starting to feel like, not that it wasn't an iconic place before, but like now with the Super Bowl, it's now like, oh, it's Foxborough now. It just feels like that. Hosting the Houston Texans, you win. What ended up being what kind of started off the game, I was like, "Rrr," but ended up being a pretty decent game, 23-14. The Texans, I'm going to just say this and I'm going to throw it to you guys. Um, the Texans are not a bad team. They've had a weird year after being really good last year with CJ Stroud, and they've had injuries like a lot of teams, blah, blah, blah. But in this one, it felt like there's heavyweights and then there's like welterweights, and it just felt like the Texans got into a boxing ring with a heavyweight, and they did admirable, but like the Chiefs have about 30 pounds on them, about a 10 extra each reach, and it just felt like they kind of toyed with him, but a heavyweight's gonna knock out a welterweight, 99 times out of 100. Anyway, what did you guys think about the game?
Yeah, I love that analogy. That's a really cool analogy to think about it.
We're gonna let Fletch go first because it's
Yeah,
your team, and you can wax poetically about the Chiefs.
yeah.
Right. I don't. I want to give a shout. I want to give a shout out because I said that again over the weekend when talk about this game. I said for me one of the things that's going to be key in this game for the Texans is getting Joe Mixon going. Which Joe Mixon went for 88 yards, I believe it was 88 yards and a touchdown. Um, Texans put up, like I said, all that can really be said. Texans put up a very good fight. The defense really tried. But we started to see what I thought was what I've been saying all season is one day we're all going to talk about how bad the Chiefs' offense has been, and then one day we're going to be like, okay, they've turned the switch on. And early in this game, for me, it felt like the Chiefs had turned the switch on. There were some great plays being made. Mahomes was starting to cook. Travis Kelce got going and was making some decent plays. And I think you put it best, Chapman. And I don't know how really to explain it other than the Chiefs are heavyweights and have all the experience and just kind of the Texans just tried to they went as far as they could, did as much as they could, stayed in the fight as long as they could, but ultimately just it was the Chiefs just didn't come close.
Tom, it's all you, buddy. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
well, if you want to, sorry about the awkward silence. I would say just really quick. The other thing, of course, to note here is that, like it happens, it seems like it happens now every January. Santa Claus comes, the New Year comes, and then someone just unwraps Travis Kelce,
Yeah,
takes off whatever. He drinks a protein shake, listens to a Taylor Swift song, gets
shaves
himself
the
ready to
mustache.
go. And then he goes out and has, yet another amazing playoff game. I believe he is now it's Jerry Rice and then him in terms of a lot of these receiving stats for him. But anyway, he had an awesome game. I feel so dumb for not taking any of the player props with Travis Kelce like an idiot. Anyway, Tom, talk about your team and tell me about this win.
Well, I'll tell you about Travis Kelce is that in the lead up, in the season, it's just I think it's Rich Eisen says it, don't take the cheese. Just don't take the thing of, he's washed, he's this, he's that, everyone's saying that, he's lost a step, he's this and that. But the Chiefs just kind of, as you said, they just keep him in cotton wool, like throughout the season, and then in the playoffs, he just seems to come out, and he always plays the best when the lights are the brightest. And he showed that again in this game. He had a lovely touchdown. I mean, Mahomes was similar to what Joe Burrow did earlier this season. He was off his feet and he managed to heave it to Travis Kelce for the touchdown. That was massive. He had a great big run in this game as well. But at the end of the day, winners win is what, the main mentality I have coming out of this game. A lot of people can say what they want about the refs and stuff, and there was some interesting calls in this game, obviously that favored the Chiefs. But the Chiefs didn't make the mistakes that the Ravens did against the Bills, or they they don't make those self-inflicted wounds. They play clean football. They got a defense that can shut any quarterback down. I mean, what's called Stroud was sacked 8 times in this game. George Karlaftis had 3 of them. They had that weird play again, the Texans, fourth down, and then they don't call a timeout, and it's all rushed. And then, the Chiefs get to them with the sack, and that's a big momentum shifter. So again, the Chiefs did just enough to win this game on offense. But I still don't think we've seen the best of the Chiefs yet. So, I think the Chiefs offense next week is going to come out and have a point to prove
Yeah.
after a game where they didn't play too great. But the Chiefs defense put up one of their best games of the year, and just feasted on CJ Stroud on that offensive line. So yeah, the Chiefs move on. Mahomes is what, 7-0 in the divisional round now, 10 touchdowns, 0 picks. So, he knows how to play in the playoffs. The Chiefs know how to play in the playoffs. And the Texans just didn't quite have enough.
Yeah.
Who were the announcers on this game again? I can't remember. Who was the
Oh,
color?
it was Joe Buck and
Tony Romo.
Oh, no, it was
Um,
Buck and Aikman.
Buck and Aikman.
Yeah,
Aikman was
yeah.
hating on Mahomes and stuff, but yeah.
No, no, no. I mean, I think he was. I
He was
think he
hating
was
on the calls,
questioning.
actually, to
So
be fair. He
yeah, yeah,
was,
yeah.
yeah,
I don't
I
think
understand it.
he's not that guy, and we should
I get
talk
it.
about that in a second.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think I stole that analogy because when it was, if you remember early on, I think it was like 6-3. Was it 9-3 at one point? No, it was yeah, it was
no.
like 6-3 for like a good chunk of time. Well, it was like 0-3, 3-3, 6-3, and Aikman made the point about these teams are like kind of feeling each other out, and then
Yeah.
the Chiefs go up and they score a touchdown on that Kareem Hunt run, and and then the Texans answer back with
Yeah,
a
with a really
field
good
goal.
touchdown. Oh,
No,
no,
it was the
the
field
field
goal.
goal.
Then
Field
they had
goal.
the touchdown in the
Yeah,
third
yeah, yeah.
quarter at the beginning. Yeah, and you felt like it was like okay, okay, and then it's the Travis Kelce touchdown. It's like, and then in the fourth quarter, it's just like, it just sort of turned on its head a little bit.
Well,
Yeah, I think, the other thing we should talk about this game, obviously, if you're watching, because it's the first game of the weekend, and there was two really big calls for roughing the passer on Patrick Mahomes. One of them, I think, was slightly more egregious than the other. One was it was a sack, right? It was a sack in the back, and was it called it was a helmet to helmet, or I can't remember
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
what
that was the first one.
that was
Yeah.
the first one.
Yeah.
And then the next one was he was coming and he prematurely slided after the defenders had committed. Didn't even hit Patrick Mahomes. They hit each
Mm.
other upon review. And I think, for me, and I think what Aikman was trying to say is like, look, Patrick Mahomes has found the loophole in terms of his performance and how he plays of how to bait people into these penalties. I don't blame them. I don't blame him for doing that. If you can figure out how to do it, Trey Young did it for years with the Hawks till they changed the rule a few years ago, like in a different way, and he was a master at it.
James
Like
Harden did it as well for
James
the
Harden.
yeah.
So, but what it is now, I think it is taking away from the game where we're not reviewing these because yes, we need to protect quarterbacks. There are hits that are bad, i.e., Jared Goff took one that we talked about before the show that was not called, and I think the league really has to do this because I think I was frustrated for the Texans. I ultimately don't think those calls cost them the game, to be honest with
No,
you. But if we had it in a game of the magnitude we're about to have in the next 3 weeks. I'd be pissed, and I'm not somebody who likes to knock on the. We have some people on our in our group that really like talking about how officiating goes. I just think I just don't want to be that guy. I don't, but there are egregious things that happen, and I
yeah,
think there are times where you can call it. Anyway, what do you guys think about that? And Fletch, you want to tell me about your thoughts?
yeah. I want to say, well, first off, like, you will notice that. Well, for one, I never talk about it. I try my hardest myself not to talk about official. Even in my own games, I try not to bring up officials. I've done it for so long. It feels cheap and lazy. Granted, I'm not in the locker room, but you need inward reflection on your own team. Don't not projection and excuses. Um, I should be in the locker room, shouldn't I? Really, but one of the things that I kind of wanted to kind of jump on, and I kind of jumping on your analogy here, Chapman. Um, actually, before I do that, there is one thing. Sorry, about five things in my head at the moment at one time, trying to get them out in order. When you talk about Mahomes and being able to bait these tackles, for anyone who's new to the NFL but watches soccer, football, the Premier League, etc., the best example I can give it to, and we all know strikers who do it, and we all know when you're in the box and a defender's coming in and they make a fair challenge, but you manage to step over the ball in time and kind of bait it. A fair play is made on the ball. It's not a bad challenge, but you just kind of just somehow manage to just step in front of that and you win a penalty because you placed your body in the right place at the right time. You bait that challenge, you bring it in, you give away a penalty. I always feel bad on the defender, but and you hate it when it happens to your team, but your strikers are genius when they do it. It's one of those. The rules exist if you find a way to play them. Those things are available to everybody. Do it. If you got a problem with it working for the Chiefs, you do it. Um, but to run off your analogy there, Chapman, about the boxing fight, yeah, you've got the heavyweights and all that sort of stuff, and you're absolutely, they're feeling each other. That first round in a boxing match, or first two rounds, when they're both kind of dancing a bit around the ring, and there's a little jab that gets thrown, nothing really gets thrown. The Chiefs get the first big land the first big punch. Maybe they kind of edged the first couple of rounds, but they get the first big punch in, and they know then as long as they've got the experience and keep the opponent at arm's length away, they will continue. They will go on. They're happy to win the match on the fight on points and on the decision because they can do that with the experience. Fair play to the Texans on having been able to throw that punch about, but again, you look at the experience. You talk about them heavyweights; they just know how to get it. The fight even it started to slip when the Texans missed the extra point. That's a
Yeah,
huge momentum
yeah,
shifter, and
massive.
that's again if you want to go back to the fight, it's just that one punch in that nice little sequence that you don't land.
Mm,
The Chiefs take advantage of it, and you constantly then you feel like you got back into it, and now you're fighting on an upward hill battle again, and that for me was where the game was initially not lost
mm.
there on its own, but things like that, the momentum just drops, and then you get penalties like that, and then all of a sudden everything's against you.
Well, we should start about how the game. I mean, I thought it was slightly a bad omen how the game even started, where the Texans kicked the ball off to the Kansas City. Kansas City returns. It was like a 60, 70 yard return. I mean,
Yeah,
big
that was
return.
crazy.
Fumble the ball. They get it back. And Boyd for the Texans throws his helmet down and then just goes berserker like in the first 30 seconds. My buddies who were here were out of the room for a second to kick off and like missed the whole thing. But that's never a great
He literally pushed the special
start.
teams coach. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was good. He was
So,
crazy.
but I mean, like I didn't, for me, like, and the whole boxing thing, I still think Texans they have a lot of growing room, both on there. They made and D'Amico, how do you say his name?
Ryans.
Miko Ryans.
D'Amico Ryans. I was listening to an interview with him post game, and he said, you can't make mistakes when you play a team as good as the Chiefs, and they've got a lot of work to do on special teams. They got work to do, across the board. And I like that dude. I mean, he seems like a smart guy. And again, you're not, we don't see blowouts as much in divisional rounds, but occasionally, and the Texans had their own. But look, I still think the Chiefs are going to have to pump up another gear next week. We're not going to talk about that now, but I think they're going to have, and I know if anybody's going to do it, it's Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, obviously. But you know, this team, the Bills team coming in, and they're not afraid, I don't think, and they will they play a style of football much like the Eagles, I think, where it's going to be really it's going to be really a really physical, rough game, which we knew anyway. But and I'm not saying much, but and the Chiefs' defense is great too. So it's like but I'm excited. I'm glad we got that rematch. To be honest with you, Fletch, you got one more thing? I can
Yeah,
see you.
last thing, I promise. The Texans beat the Chiefs in the total yards in the game, 336 to 212. They more rushing yards by nearly 100, passing yards by
That's the one.
about 20. They beat them by about 20 on passing yards, net yards anyway. The penalties and that return and special teams returns afforded the Chiefs as well excellent field position to take advantage of, or much better field position to take advantage of, and drives that they did not need to pull as much out of the bag. The Texans even killed the time of possession 33-26 to Chiefs 26-34. Again, it says a lot for. We've seen some games like this where field position is so important. And how we start that field. We had not an argument. We had a really good discussion earlier this season about punts, returns, and why there were loads of field goals in the first few weeks and all that sort of stuff. And it goes back to again the amount of teams that were capitalizing on short field position. And the one thing you can't do against the Chiefs, don't give them less yards to work with from the get go.
Yeah, but in all fairness to the Texans, even with the short fields, the Chiefs were held to field goals, especially to start the
Oh, yeah,
game. I thought, the opening drive that the Chiefs were going to go down and score, but the Texans held firm, and they held firm in the red zone for the majority of this game. But yeah, the Chiefs were just able to put up, as I said, put up enough points. And then, when it was a 13-12 game, I still had all the confidence because I knew that, you know we got another gear that we can get into. And we scored the last 11 points. We even, gave them the safety at the
yeah,
end, which was a bit weird, but we were already way up at that point. So,
yeah.
but yeah, a really a good game. And as you say, Chapman, a game that got better as it went on. It started off a bit slow, but
Yep. All right, let's move on to the other game, the game from yesterday, which was the Los Angeles Rams at Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles win this game 28-22 in what was a really exciting game in the end. And I honestly came away slightly more impressed with the Rams overall just than I did with the Eagles, not to take anything away from the Eagles because they did win. The Rams defense came to play, but also the Eagles defense came to play, and that was ultimately the deciding factor. I just want to say Sam, I'm so jealous of Jared Verse. The Falcons have needed a Jared Verse for a bajillion years. Now, granted, if Michael Penix is the guy, I mean, what are you gonna do? But man, he played awesome, and he was relishing being the villain to those Eagles fans yesterday, which was awesome to say. Tom, what did you think about this game? And how are you feeling about the Eagles now going to their second NFC Championship game in 3 years?
um, well, I thought for the Eagles, it was a case of, they got the running game going in this game. I mean, it was Saquon Barkley versus the wild base. I mean, he rushed for what, 200 yards. He had two long runs as well. The game was kind of quite similar to the game that they played in week 12 to start with because it was a closer game. And then as it got to the fourth quarter, that's when, or the end of towards the end of the third quarter, that's when, the game kind of burst into life with the Eagles. I think Saquon had the 72-yard rushing touchdown that put them up by 13 with 4 minutes left. But I thought the Rams, as you said, the Rams D line dominated this game. I mean, as did the Eagles D line though. So it was Byron Young, obviously it was Jared Verse, it was Kobe Turner. And for the Eagles, I mean, Jalen Carter was an absolute man mountain in this game, wrecking machine. Like he was unblockable really in this game. The Eagles offense, in terms of the passing game, did not do a whole lot in this game. Obviously, granted that Jalen Hurts got banged up in this game as well, but it was a funny game with the first quarter in bright green. The field, oh, it's great, it's good conditions, and then by the fourth quarter it was that sort of sloppy snow as well. It wasn't like it's kind of nice snow. It looked horrible out there, like in terms of for the playing conditions, which I think fed into a lot of how the game played out in the end as well, with Kyron Williams fumbling as well. That was the really, really crucial one. And the Eagles defense being able to hold out just about with the Rams, trying to make their way down the field to potentially win the game after what a great performance from Saquon Barkley. So really exciting game though, especially in the second half, especially after the third quarter. That's when it seemed to loads of points be scored and aesthetically pleasing to watch as well with the snow. But yeah, a really good game, and I do think the Eagles. They're going to have some question marks though, against the Commanders next week, because the Commanders are playing absolutely lights out right now, and Jaden Daniels is playing with just absolutely no fear. He's just holding no prisoners, and he's playing at a completely elite level right now. So they're going to have their issues, especially if the passing game is as anemic as it was in the majority of this game. But yeah.
If they were passing out, not second place ribbons. What do you call it? Not blue ribbon. I don't know what we called them in high school, but it was like for the participation award.
Hmm.
I'd have to give a
Blue
ribbon to
Peter
Stafford
Lodge.
because Stafford took a beating yesterday, including one really hard shot to the ribs that looked like early on in the game that looked like he was bothering the whole time. I mean, that Eagles defense was just in his face. And honestly, I thought they were just going to get trashed, but much like you said in the second half, Stafford was able to find something and started hitting something. And then to talk about the weather, it wasn't snow. It was cold, but it wasn't snowing. And then about roughly halfway through the game, because Tom Brady was on the call yesterday talking about it. It's like it looked like they were trying to play as hard as they could because they knew that weather was coming. And once it did, you could tell it did. I mean, it made a difference on both sides of the field. I don't know if you guys have ever played. I mean, I don't, is it, because I didn't grow up playing football, soccer, except in the spring. But if you've ever caught a football in the cold, or played basketball outside in the cold, when those balls hit your hand, I mean, have you ever gotten jammed before? I mean, it hurts. And that football is a rock. Like it is just a rock. And so, I couldn't, people were being really critical, I think, on, Nakua dropped some balls, whatever. But it's like, man, it is freezing temperatures outside. It's freaking snowing. Like it's hard. It's hard
Hmm.
to play football in this weather. Fletch, tell me about your thoughts on the game.
Yeah. Again, there's not too much to be said. A lot of the games were very obvious in where they were or weren't won and whatnot. Comes down to 300 yards on the ground in the snow for the Eagles. Yes, the one thing I will say on this game is when the Rams brought it back to 22-28 with a few minutes to go, and we all thought they need a stop, and they really need a stop. Somehow teams always seem to pull one out. The one quarterback I would say you don't want to go up against where there's anything more than 30 seconds to go, a full field, is Matthew Stafford. The man is clutch. I remember him doing it against the Falcons in 2019, I believe it was, the 2020 when no time, no timeouts, about a minute or so left on the clock, 75 yards, Lions score with a touchdown. Score a touchdown. It's the man's clutch. Unfortunately, obviously, it didn't work out for him this time. And you talk about how they were in his face, yes, but also Stafford is one of the toughest quarterbacks in this league. That man will get up and he will continue to play hard. Um, but the main problem I think the Rams had, and we talk about the yardage, two of those were on massive explosive plays that couldn't very much have been very, very different if a tackle went differently at the line. It was a 70, well, I've got it up here, 62 yarder and a 78 yarder. If those plays are stopped for just a few yards, we're talking about a very different game. And this game plays out very differently, but that's it. Saquon Barkley is your world class player who changes a game. He's your right. Again, putting this into our football terms, he's a Kevin De Bruyne who whips in that cross or has that shot from 30 yards out when you desperately need it. Is your Cristiano Ronaldo, you whatever, who just knows how to. He flipped a game on its head. He put the game on his shoulders, and that's how the Eagle where the Eagles took it is quite sim. It's a lot more simple than I think most people want to make it out to be. Saquon Barkley, explosive play, make a man miss, game over.
Yeah, and just to highlight here too, the Rams also lost a turnover battle. There were two.
Mm.
One
Yes,
it was a Kyron Williams fumble, and then there was I can't remember who the other one came from, but you know, again, 2-1 turnover battle. It's really hard to win in
Did
the
they throw a
playoffs.
pick? Did the Rams?
No, Stafford.
no
No, Stafford didn't throw a pick. No.
No, was it two fumbles then? Was it?
I want to say it was. I can't remember
fumble.
what the
Yeah,
other turnover. I remember the fumble from Williams, but I can't remember what the other one was.
um, Stafford
Stafford
fumbled
lost the
twice.
fumble.
Oh, he lost the
Yeah,
fumble,
that's
didn't
right.
he? I mean, the
Fumbled twice and
conditions
lost one, and so did
were
Kyron
He lost
Williams.
insane.
one. That's right. That's right. That was the other one.
Yeah.
So it was Stafford's fault.
But I
Um,
agree
Uh,
with you, Chapman, in terms of the I came out of this game more impressed with the Rams more than anything else, because I think they had a chance to win the game at the end. They didn't quite do it, but the adversity they had this season, starting 1-4, to then make it all the way to the divisional round, and be within one score of going to the NFC Championship game, just shows what a leader that Sean McVay is, and what a team that. That D line is going to be a problem for a long time.
yeah, and well, you talk there. The Eagles fumbled it twice. The Rams fumbled it three times. The Rams only recovered one of their three. The Eagles recovered both of them. Sometimes, again, we talk about. I mentioned there the two big plays by Saquon Barkley. If there's a slightly better tackle, if the play works out slightly differently, a defender plugs a gap just that little bit better, it's a completely different play than some of the more minute things. And it's one of those where sometimes the ball just don't bounce your way on the fumbles. You don't recover them, or you do recover them, it does bounce your way, and things like that. They just favoured the Eagles yesterday, and you can't beat that sometimes when Lady Luck, shall we call her, sometimes.
Also, just really quickly, the Eagles had 5 sacks on Stafford. It felt like it was twice that many. That defensive line, the Eagles have put together with a lot of ex-Georgia players and Florida players, and a lot of Southerners, was quite impressive. And once that weather changed, and once it got colder, man, they were just sending people and getting the crowd. But again, take nothing away from the Eagles. They haven't played pretty football this year, but they have won, and all that matters is winning, and they
Yeah,
have done that. And they now are going to face a team that we're going to talk about now for our next game, which final game of the weekend, which was the game on Saturday night, and it was the Washington Commanders going into Detroit and beating what I thought was the best team in the NFL this season, the Detroit Lions. To set this one up quickly, we should say. I don't think anyone, the line on this game was Detroit minus 9.5, almost a double league favorite. I think that was a wrong line compared to not because of the outcome of the game, but because mainly I'm going to say injuries that happened really early in this game on the Detroit side, and then also not taking into credit how good Jaden Daniels is even as a rookie. And I think those two things didn't go into that line. And so, ultimately, what happened in this game, in my view, is that Jaden Daniels played almost a perfect game, did not turn the ball over, looked calm, collected, did not look like a rookie. The Detroit played well pretty much two-thirds of this game, I would say, but ultimately turnovers by Goff cost them opportunities. And yes, they have shown over and over again that when bad things happen to them, they can overcome. But it just got to be too much in this one. And unfortunately, a season that, I think we all were, I think anybody who loves football in the way that we all love football, you can't help but root for this team. And unfortunately, their season ends early. Um, Tom, I'm going to let you go first, and then we'll hit with Fletch. Tom, what did you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, it was an absolute awesome performance from the Commanders' offense in this game. I mean, as you said, Jaden Daniels, I can't say enough about him. Like, is he the best rookie quarterback we've seen? He's very much got a case for that with the way that he played with, they kept saying it on the broadcast, poise. The poise he had in this game, in the biggest moment to play the way that he did was incredible. And it was not a game for the defenses, let's say that. But their defense was able to hold on. And the Lions, it's just unfortunate because, as you said, Chapman, they had so much promise. They played so well this entire year. It felt like they were destined to go to the Super Bowl, whether that's to win it or just to, make it. It felt like that was what was on the cards for them. And they just got hit in the mouth. Like it was a game where the Lions defense just couldn't quite overcome all those injuries and stuff that they've had. Obviously, I know they beat the Vikings in week 18, but it finally came home to roost, all these injuries on defense. Yeah, they couldn't stop anything, but neither could the Commanders really. But it was just a few calls here and there. Obviously, as you said, the Jared Goff one where he throws the pick six. He gets, it should be a rough in the passer call. Shouldn't be a touchdown, but it was a bang bang play, and it plays on. And then obviously, he fumbled the ball as well. So, it was the turnovers that came back to bite the Lions. But what a performance from Jahmyr Gibbs as well. I mean, he had a cracking performance.
And I want to talk about that with Fletch when he gets a chance. Tom, I'm going to get Fletch going because I want to do like a three-way conversation and throw some stuff out. Fletch, do you want to? I mean, I've been in your shoes before, and I was at an NFC. I've been in playoff games that we've lost. I know how you're feeling
Yeah, yeah.
today. Tell me about what you felt ultimately cost your team.
I think it comes down to two things, and but I want to preface it by first saying I don't want anything I say to take away from the Commanders. No thing of the Lions messing up takes away from just how good Jaden Daniels was and just how well coached, well prepared, and well put forward the Commanders were. I said on Thursday on the preview show and I said it on I joined Andy Davis on his pod and so did Sam to talk about the Rams Eagles game. There was always the worry that the Commanders were going to turn up and just go, "Hey, we're just glad to be here. Let's just play and if it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't." They did not turn up and make numbers. They turned up and they played. I think for me, it comes down to a couple of things on the Lions side of it. Number one being the turnovers. Absolutely, it's egregious. You can't. The Rams lost 2-0 on the turnovers 2-0 lost. The Ravens were 3-0 on turnovers lost. The Lions 5-0 in the turnover battle. You can't turn the ball over 5 times anyway, let alone lose the battle by 5. So offensively, I think it was whether it was the Ben Johnson and that offense, the Commanders were just giving out reads that we didn't know that we hadn't planned for. Whether what they put out there on the field on the day wasn't what we saw on the tape, I don't know. But nothing we seemed. The only one thing we could seem to do on offense that was working was pound the ball, pound the rock with Gibbs. and then we moved away from it. Then we stopped doing it. It's working, so let's stop doing it. And some of the play calling was absolutely terrible from then on. One of the big plays I will mention here is the 3rd and 1. If you've got David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, what do you do on 3rd and 1? You run that damn ball. And if you don't make it the first time, you run the damn ball again and you will have a first down. We go empty set, trick play, and Jameson Williams throws an interception. Like, they just, I can't.
You know this is the thing that's a little puzzling about that call. I mean I agree. It felt a little look at me kind of in terms of a play call in a situation like that. And like, yes, you've been known to do things at unorthodox times and catch people off guard, and it has worked in the past, but it felt like Williams should have known also if there's anyone around that receiver, he needs to tuck and run.
Yeah.
Because that's why he's the one throwing that ball, which
We'll
was
just
just
throw it out of
very
bounds.
no, but he could even at least run. I mean, he could at least try to like run with the ball. You know what I mean? Like, or throw it around, but like depending on the play. But you don't throw the ball, and that was just a really. I mean, and it just felt like
Yeah.
yeah, it was just a real head scratcher. Sorry about that,
Um,
Fletch. Go ahead.
no, you're fine. It felt like, but the thing is though, and it's sometimes the one for me where you talk about it is something that play is what it is. I'm going to take away from that one. I want to look at the pick six for a second, and I know you want to talk about a specific part of that pick six. I'll get. I'll let you talk about that in a minute. I want to talk about the bit before it. Sam Laporta's wide open, 2 yards up in front of him. 2 yards off the line, Sam Laporta is wide open. Tim Patrick is covered by the safety, not quite free of his corner, and then there's a linebacker hovering, maybe waiting to see if he can come down on Sam Laporta, but hovers in that area, watches Jared Goff, sees him go, and he's as good as in triple coverage in that zone. Decision making like that, and I think part of it comes down to what does everybody say about Goff? I will stand by it. You put Goff under real pressure, Goff makes bad decisions. Most quarterbacks, your decision making obviously gets worse under pressure, but just the decision making under pressure was terrible. I think that losing Kevin Zeitler before the game, obviously to Friday, he was at a hamstring problem. He was out for the game. We put in Graham Glasgow. Graham Glasgow's game is one of the worst I've seen by an old lineman this year for the Lions, and then in the last couple of years, it was dreadful. Almost all of those pressures were coming through him. And like I say, that doesn't take anything away from just how good the Commanders were. They turned up to play. They didn't mess around. They were absolutely fantastic, played great football. But offensively, bad play calling, missing one key piece of the O-line, causing pressures, which caused bad decisions, and then turnovers ultimately killed us.
Also, very uncharacteristic, some sloppiness on in terms of some of the coaching, which was one of the interesting was that 12 man on the field,
I was gonna say
Yes.
that one,
which
yeah.
yeah, and that just felt like that's not something I feel like I've seen. I mean, yes, they've made mistakes, but like I just haven't seen that.
Because it felt like that was the play that after the 12 man on the field and they got the touchdown, that was just the ender of the game, or it just felt like
Yeah.
that was the
Yeah.
killer. That was the thing that ended it really. So that was really rough.
And
Um,
And the thing is, though, on that play, you look at the replay of it, you've got about six coaches screaming, Get the fuck off the field, come get off." Someone get off at this point. Anyone, just don't have 12 men on the field. And when the flag was thrown, all coaches, just, for God's, yeah, things like that were just undisciplined, poor, like silly errors, constantly shooting ourselves in the foot.
and great game for Terry McLaurin as well, I
Oh
think,
yeah,
right?
brilliant game for him.
He got that one where he managed to find a gap, didn't he? And he went like all the way to the house. So it was like 80 yarder or something like that. That was mad.
Well, let's also give a hats off to not just Terry McCoy, but Cliff Kingsbury in this offense,
Mm.
because honestly, that after
De'Ami
his stint
Brown
in
as well,
Arizona,
second
it was
week.
always a joke that he couldn't do
Mm.
anything past Thanksgiving or something. And yeah, I mean, like this offense was impressive. Um,
De'Ami Brown as well. He had his second game in a row with like a monster, like almost 100 yards or something like that. So you're right. Yeah, Cliff Kingsbury does deserve a lot of credit for this game, especially for starting off early with James Downs, just giving him quick completions, getting him into the rhythm of the game. And from then on in, he was, the Lions were in trouble as soon as, Jaden Daniels was just absolutely incredible in this game.
Mm,
Um, and I don't think the Eagles are going to like seeing him next week. So,
no. I think that's going to be a great game. I know they're going to be covering on the preview team. Fletch, we have you. Do you mind? Could
Yeah,
we just chat a little bit quickly about this? Like, so, after 2 years of like really special seasons, I think on both sides, and especially culminating now, the Lions are going to be in a time of change. A couple things, more than likely you're going to at least lose one, if not both of your coordinators under Dan Campbell. And then also just sort of the questions with golf again at this point. You've got an awesome team. Like I think, obviously injuries played a big part of the season. And I don't think like golf's issues is like, oh, you know, we're getting rid of them next year, which of course you're not, but it does feel like there might be a ceiling to where he can get you. And if that plays, is it already time? Not necessarily rebuild or whatever, but it's like, okay, one of the great things about that Patriots dynasty is they just kept retooling what they were over and over and over again.
yeah,
And it'll be interesting now to see what because Dan Campbell's going to have a chance to bring in new coordinators, which can help breathe life into different ways. Sean McVay's been excellent at this over his career. Anyway, I'm taking a long-winded way to ask you a question like what are your thoughts in terms of, I know it's really fresh, but just any general thoughts about what the future of this team and sort of things that might be coming for them.
yeah. So as you say that, we've just had Sam sharing our Discord, which, by the way, if you're listening, check the bio, join our Discord, come and chat to us, especially through the off season. We need stuff to talk about. More people, the better. The Chicago is finalizing a deal to hire Ben Johnson, so he's staying in the division. Not bad. Should have gone to the Raiders, but I think here's what I want and what I think the Lions are going to do. I think this
By the
is.
way, Fletch, we just broke news on the pod. I think this is like the first time, and I know it sucks because it's your a brilliant OC for the last 3, 4 years, whatever it's been. Ladies and gentlemen, breaking news on Huddle Line. Ben Johnson will be the coach of the Chicago Bears. Sorry, just had to say
Do you
that
know
because
what?
this
I'd
is,
rather you
you know
broke the
what?
news that my wife was having an affair. To be honest with you, like just give me so. It's not as bad
Whoa.
as this. This is
We will not be
heartbreaking.
besmirching Mrs. Fletch on this podcast. I'm
This is
sorry,
this
not even by you.
this is no. It's breaking news. It's horrible news. Um. No, I'm a joke. Like for me, what I've always stood by, and this was something I stood by last year when Ben Johnson may or may not have been getting a head coaching job, and Aaron Glenn may or may not have been getting a head coaching job. I have stood by one thing: the identity of this team is built a certain way, and the only way you can continue that is you need to have the right coordinator. Because it's one thing to build someone in on someone who goes, "Oh yeah, I'm happy to run a hard nosed, punchy opposition in the face, run game football." That's one thing, but to have someone who's bought in on the culture is a completely different thing, and you can't just find that in a coaching cycle. To do that, I think you've got to hire from within because you've got people in the building. Yeah, Ben Johnson might go and take a couple of pieces with him. I believe him and Mark Brunell, the quarterbacks coach, are like that. Because I've got another. I tweeted this yesterday, so you can't claim like I'm making this up on the spot. I tweeted this yesterday. Um, he might take a couple of pieces with him, but you've got to bring it in. Edgebaum, I can't remember his last name. I don't know how to say it properly. He interviewed with the Patriots last year, although we all know what the kind of the situation they were in. Someone like him would be excellent. There's a pass game coordinator. You get someone who's very much worked closely with someone like Goff, knows Ben Johnson, knows the scheme, knows Dan Campbell. You don't have to change a lot because the scheme's still there. They've been brought up. Maybe they make a couple of tweaks, but most things will stay relatively the same in how you run that offense. This is why I think they brought Teddy Bridgewater back because I think Teddy Bridgewater will be the Lions quarterbacks coach as of this offseason. He wanted to go and coach his high school team and have success. He won the state championship in the first year. My brother, go and get some bigger dreams for your coaching career. Come coach in the NFL. So I think we'll have something like that. And I think similar will happen on defense. If Aaron Glenn chooses to go, I think Kelvin Shepherd, our linebackers coach, is the logical next step because he's bought in on the culture. He's a player's coach. They play for him. So I don't see too much changing. I think a lot of the playbook can stay the same. A lot of the culture will stay the same, and you have guys who are bought in on it. Whether they get better or worse, I just don't know. They couldn't. But I don't think it's going to be all too much different, particularly with scheme, the way the Lions play. But for me, that has to come from higher from within, higher from the culture, continue that going forward, and then, you know, let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that, Fletch. Appreciate you talking, Fletch, because I know for me personally, like after big disappointing losses, it's tough. But I think again, I think you made two really great points there from my perspective. A, the identity of this team is from Dan Campbell, and he's not going anywhere. And I'm so jealous you have a coach like that. That's amazing. The second thing is the core of the team in terms of the youth, the players, and sort of and what Brad Holmes has done, and I've been very complimentary of him, uh, is not going anywhere. One of the big mistakes after Kyle Shanahan left the Falcons after the Super Bowl 51 was that we didn't hire. We didn't. We Matt LaFleur was up for the job, and our GM at the time did not think he was up for being a offensive coordinator. We also had Mike McDaniel's in the building, and we also had was it Kevin O'Connell? I can't remember. It's somebody else in the building, not Kevin O'Connell, but there's another head coach right now on that staff. And I think you've got Dan Quinn, who will probably be able to attract more of that kind of thing because he did do it the right way in terms of coming up in the coaching ranks and
Was it Zach
organizational
Taylor?
opinion. Zach Taylor. No, it wasn't Zach
No.
Taylor. It
Oh.
was it has Kyle. It had Mike McDonald. We had Matt LaFleur. There's one more. It might have been Kevin O'Connell. I can't remember. It's one more guy. It wasn't Kevin O'Connell. It was
Was
somebody
it
else. Well,
McVay?
Was on that staff too. He's now obviously our head coach, but there's like five head coaches that were
Hmm.
on that staff for that Super Bowl. Anywho, back to Fletch. I think again, what's really smart about what you said is you've identified the foundation is firm, and you
Yeah,
can it might take some twing or whatever, but you don't throw that out, and that's great, and I think
yeah.
that's really good.
I'd say I think good culturally if you're hiring from within and promoting from within. I think good culturally, it doesn't upset the players, and you're not going to have a mutiny on your hands. But the players don't have to get used to someone completely new. A lot of benefits come with it. Plus the fact that, like I say, I think for me the most important thing, the Lions will continue to play the way they play because that comes from Dan Campbell, but it's the culture. And someone who's already in the build, they are so specific on culture that again, you can't find that on on any given coaching carousel. But you know that the guys in the building are built on that culture,
I,
and it's such a collaborative process across the whole
well,
franchise that I don't think that
I don't think culture is exclusive to the Lions. No offense, but I get what you're saying, and I
The
also think these
championships are
guys are.
built on culture, are built
Yeah, they
on
are, but I'm
culture
saying
for sure.
they don't they're not the only team with culture that has a way of specifically doing things that people these are professional jobs too. Like, but I get what you're saying. I especially think on offense that makes a lot of sense. But anyway, I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of time to talk about that over the off season. And guys, I'm looking in terms of these games. Obviously, after all this, we now have our AFC championship contenders and our NFC championship contenders. So next week on Sunday, it'll be the Chiefs against the Bills, which I'm going to go ahead and put money on that's going to be the late game.
7 straight AFC
Uh,
Championship
can we
games in a
petition
row.
to
Appearances. It's honestly quite astounding that what Patrick
can
Mahomes and Andy Campbell and Andy Reid have done. What?
can
But
we petition to change the name of the game to the Arrowhead Invitational?
Oh, I would love that. That would be a beautiful scene.
you guys never let me get through my setup. And on the NFC side, we have the Philadelphia Eagles hosting the Washington Commanders. Who would have thought it? The Cinderella of the ball in this team, and not in a doesn't deserve to be there kind of way. I'm going to go ahead and say that will be the first game, and then Bills Chiefs will
It,
be the
it
second game
already
on
it's been
Sunday.
confirmed. Yeah, yeah.
Which leads me to be, Tom, you're going to go first because this is such an obvious question. Who does your head say is going to be in the Super Bowl, and who does your heart tell you is going to be in the Super Bowl? Fletch, get ready. You're next after this. So Chiefs, Chiefs, and then
Okay, and then my head says that the Eagles are going to be in from the NFC side, but my heart wants the Commanders to get through to the Super Bowl. Just to see rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels in the Super Bowl would be incredible. So
great. Fletch.
Yeah. Head says Chiefs, Eagles. And it'll always be the Chiefs until it's not, and the Eagles are just, yeah. My heart, obviously, I'd love to see a Bills Commanders. It just, my little brother's a Bills fan. In fact, no, my heart doesn't want him to be that happy because he gets arrogant when he's happy and just aggressive. So maybe I don't want my little brother to be too happy, but no. It'd be a fun one, close to home. My little brother will be happy, and the Commanders are just great story.
Great story.
Great story.
Fletch, I've got the same one as you. My gut really tells me we're going to get another Chiefs Eagles Super Bowl. There's just something weird about it's more on the Eagles side where I just think they've like done this thing where they're just like bamboozling everybody by like just like looking weird. And I'm not saying they're gonna like become a juggernaut or anything, but they're just like, yeah, dude, we don't care what you think. We just, make fun of our coach. Obviously we all love Barkley, but like there's just something about it. But my heart would love to see the Bills. No offense, Tom, on each one. I like there's just something about this year, and I know it's going to be a great game, but I'd love to see Bills. I'd like to see Bills Eagles because there's just something about the Commanders where I'm just like, uh, I don't know. After watching Jaden Daniels, I could be wrong. The moment wasn't too big for him. That was the thing I took away. He was so cool, calm, and collected. I think he actually would be fine in the Super Bowl, but there is something about there's history where teams that like got there a year too early just get the crap beat out of them by teams that have been there. And both Eagles and obviously the Chiefs have been there, and but anyway. Uh, that's me. Guys, do we have anything else we want to talk about? I mean, do we want to start talking about what Caleb Williams is going to look like under Ben Johnson, or is that?
that's, I think that's an off-season conversation, right?
Yeah, that's off season. I was trying to get Fletch's attention, but anyway, guys, is the College Pod going to be doing a review of the championship game after?
Depends who wins. Um, no, we will absolutely be doing a review of the championship game. Might do a little something extra after, the week after, but then that College Pod will take a couple of weeks off, let everybody regroup and whatnot before March comes and well, end of February in the draft. So definitely have that going, and we'll have even without that pod for a couple of weeks. I'm sure again, Discord, plenty to talk about college football in the thing. And I've just set up in the Discord a dedicated NFL draft channel. So come and talk to us specifically about the draft, just in case like don't want to be posting two things, one in the college and one in the NFL one, because it fits under both, specific for the draft.
I got something else. I got one more thing for you, Chapman. That I managed to convince my housemate to support an NFL team. The only problem is the NFL team he now supports is the Eagles after watching the Eagles
Oh,
beat the Rams. So he's like, "Yeah, I like Jalen Hurts." I'm like, "No, you can't do that." But yeah, he was into it. So
send him to Philadelphia for a weekend, and he'll change his mind real quick. No offense, I love you all, Philadelphia people, but as you know, Atlanta and Philly do not get along in terms of those sports cities. But no, that's good. Well, hey, we can use tell him you've got a podcast for him. We talk about everybody, so he should
yes.
listen to Hurdle Line. As Fletch mentioned, there is the national championship game in college football tonight. It's Ohio State against Notre Dame. I think anybody who bet on that is going to make a ton of money if they had anybody who had that matchup in the preseason. Ohio State is an 8.5 point favorite. I cannot stand either one of these teams historically. But I have somebody very special in my life who's a huge Notre Dame fan, a family member of mine. It's my brother-in-law, Roger. And I will be rooting for Notre Dame tonight, but I will not be watching because I just can't be asked to stay up that late after the long weekend. But I hope it's a great game, and I do hope the Fighting Irish do knock up Ohio State. No offense, Ollie. I know Ollie, if he's listening, he will be rooting for his Buckeyes, and I'm sure he'll be staying up late tonight. But I hope it's a great game either way. That's I really don't have a hard horse in this. As Fletch mentioned, we will also have our Thursday preview show. These NFC and AFC championships game. I'm excited to hear what Carl and Sam and Fletch have to say about these matchups. We've picked ours here, and then week after next, we'll know who's in the Super Bowl, and we'll be talking about those games next Monday night, hopefully with Ollie back. Fletch, thanks for joining us tonight and
No
sticking in
problem.
for Ollie. Always appreciated. Tom, thank you for being here. And I'm just going to say this: hurdle that snow game.
Hurdle that Arrowhead Invitational.
Oh, yes.